5:30 a.m. Monks in orange floor-length robes hold prayer beads in their hands and wear them around their necks as they complete their morning tasks and prepare for the day. A low, continuous buzz fills the Hare Krishna temple in San Diego, California, as the faithful speak and chant ancient and powerful mantras. A Swami, dressed in ornate robes, sits on a decorated altar in the corner of the temple. He meditates with a laser focus, not moving a muscle for hours. 11 a.m. Thousands of worshipers in colorful African attire pray loudly and fervently. Energetic head motions and hand gestures accompany their prayers. Frenetic group energy electrifies the enormous tent. A sea of plastic chairs as far as the eye can see, but no one is seated. Everyone is on their feet, praising and worshiping at a massive Pentecostal church in Lagos, Nigeria. 4 p.m. A woman approaches the labyrinth, tucked away among the trees, at a retreat in Tecate, Mexico. First, she approaches the entrance, takes a deep breath, then begins the walk. Those mid-walk silently beckon her to join. They seamlessly invite her to relax, relate, reflect. In the center of the labyrinth, a man sits, quietly contemplating the mysteries of the maze. Imagine a global spiritual interfaith journey. Time spent with pastors and priests, preachers and teachers, reverends, rabbis, imams, monks, musicians, and ministers. I'm living it. Through my 52 weeks of worship project, which began in 2010, when I made a personal commitment to visit a different place of worship every week for a year, whether that place reflected my own religious beliefs or not. Since then, I have visited countless sacred spaces from the south side of Chicago to South Africa, from Brazil to Brooklyn. But I'm not here today to talk to you about religion or dogma or which path to salvation is the surest or the shortest or the safest. Is that a sigh of relief I hear? I'm here to talk to you about navigating sacred spaces and being courageous enough to give yourself permission to walk through those spaces to find your place, the place that challenges you while nourishing you completely and thoroughly. But first, let me take you back to 2009. That year was a holy triumvirate of personal pain for me. In April, my maternal grandmother passed away unexpectedly. She was the only grandmother I ever knew. In August, my father died. Cancer. And as the year came to an end, I was deeply betrayed by a man who I once thought might be my husband and the father of my yet unborn children. After this year full of loss, I started wondering how I could heal from all of that pain. Those of you who might have suffered the loss of a love or the death of a loved one know how it can make you question everything you once believed. And I was no different. So I decided to spend countless hours in unfamiliar situations with people I didn't know, experiencing rituals and traditions I knew nothing about, and sharing my pain and grief with strangers. Seems like a logical choice, right? I simply wanted to believe that goodness still existed in the world, and so I looked for it everywhere, in the eyes of every person that I met, not just in my home church or only in familiar places. My grandmother used to say, if you're looking for something, you should really look everywhere. And so that's what I did. And I wasn't disappointed. In churches and mosques and synagogues and living rooms and temples, I sat side by side with people of different faiths. We prayed for each other. There was something wonderfully comforting about walking into a new place of worship and knowing that people were there on that day to stand before God, however they perceived him, her, or they to be. They silently fought their own battles and celebrated their victories and encouraged me to do the same. I soaked in the kindness of strangers. Every service, visitors like me were welcomed and hugged and loved. In every service, I was accepted unconditionally. Even when it was completely clear I was not a regular member of the community, I was accepted. In one congregation, everybody stood up and sang for me. I was the only visitor that week. Those kindnesses helped to sustain me and played a huge part in my healing. So when I tell people about my spiritual journey, invariably they ask the same 4 questions. First, what was the most memorable thing that you ever saw? Second, have you visited my own religious community? Third, what have you learned? And finally, what advice do you have for me if I am seeking a stronger, more authentic connection to the divine? Well, first let me say there are a lot of wild and wonderful ways that worship takes place. From watching a spontaneous conga line form in front of me at an LGBT-friendly Pentecostal church, to standing in a room full of seekers dressed in white, watching a medium perform spiritual surgeries with a knife that looked to me like something I might just find in my kitchen, to having a conversation with a young girl reading a children's book by L. Ron Hubbard as we both waited for a service at a storefront Scientology center. I just tried to go with the flow. There were some times where I felt completely comfortable and sometimes where I stood out like a sore thumb. And there were times where after I went home, I thought, well, I never really need to experience that ever again. But what became crystal clear is that there is a safe and sacred space for everyone who seeks it, no matter who you are, what you choose to believe, or what you don't believe. I love when people ask me, did you visit my religious community? When I'm asked, did you visit a Sikh temple? Or did you spend any time with atheists? Or have you heard of the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster? Which is a thing. What I hear is, do you see me? Do you see who I am, what I believe, what sustains me? Have you experienced my religious traditions, my cultures? Oprah has said that based on the many interviews she's done with people of different walks of life over her career, that everyone just wants to be heard, preferably without judgment. And I agree, everyone wants to be seen, everyone wants to be heard, and when I tell people I am trying to experience as many different ways of worship as I can, I am asked repeatedly, please include the one that matters to me. Please help people to see me. So, what did I learn? I learned about courage and humility, and I witnessed the pure power of prayer and silence and meditation. I learned that most people understand deep down on some level that each of us have the potential to be a villain or a victor, and so seek to fortify ourselves with positive uplift and worship so that we can be the best version of ourselves that we can be. And I learned that family is the first congregation, and that right now, so many of us are digging deeper into their family's faith traditions to find meaning, or we're running from it as fast as our legs can carry us to find something, anything completely different than what we were taught as children. And some people are simply carrying on a family tradition of non-belief. And finally, I learned that the people you love stay in your heart and near your spirits long after they've left this earth. And if you wake up every morning and put one foot in front of the other in faith, everything else will work itself out. So if you're looking for a stronger, more authentic connection to the divine, as I was, I offer you the 3 S's. First, step out of your comfort zone. Second, step into someone else's shoes. And finally, shut up and listen. Step out of your comfort zone. Everyone should, at some point, find themselves in a place where they totally stick out and they don't know the rules. Why not have a wild and humbling and unforgettable experience? Most places of worship have an all are welcome approach. Find a place that's in the same religious tradition as the one in which you were raised. Then find something completely different. Pick a place with an amazing choir and go there. And then pick a place where you know you probably won't go more than once. Visit an enormous place of worship, or one that's breathtakingly beautiful. And then visit one that's small and unassuming and intimate. Be open. Phone first. Ask whatever question you need to feel comfortable. Do I need to cover my head? How long is the service? Do I need to take off my shoes? And speaking of shoes, step into someone else's. It has been my experience that there's always someone who is willing to invite you into a new situation and show you the rules if your eyes are open and you're paying attention. Be a bridge builder. Why not? If not you, then who? And finally, shut up and listen. No one is going to make you change what you believe if you don't want to. As a matter of fact, one of my cardinal rules as I was going on this spiritual journey was I never prayed to any gods I just met or didn't understand. But what became clear is that even when it was difficult, and sometimes it was, if I just sat and observed respectfully and silently, I would definitely learn something about myself. And I'd more than likely learn something about the people who were so kind as to invite me into their sacred space. And so I learned to just shut up and listen. If you follow these 3 steps, you may find yourself on a transformative journey where you're able to see your own reflection in as many mirrors as you dare to look in. And you may or may not have an epiphany about what path to salvation is right or best or special. But you may conclude that simply taking the time to examine your own beliefs is worth it. To contemplate what drives you, what matters. And once you do that, you may cultivate a deep respect for anyone who has asked those hard questions, done that hard work, regardless of whether or not they come to the same conclusion that you did or not. And you may start to see fewer differences between yourself and others, and a little more divinity in everyone. So I haven't somehow become magically blind to the many ways that religion can divide us. There will never be a time when negative images of religion do not exist. But those negative images sit side by side with so many instances of people who, inspired by their faith, have done great things. There are countless stories of those who aim to spread love and build up, rather than spew hate and tear down. Many reflect a divine energy that defends and comforts those in need, rather than deceiving and confusing those very same people. Don't let the difficult images in religion today prevent you from finding an authentic connection to the divine and a community that it can help to strengthen your spiritual foundation. If you search with an open heart and good intentions, you may find that community. And you may find that it's full of people searching for truth, just like you are. I truly believe that navigating sacred spaces to find the place in the universe that sustains you is worth it. I challenge you to look until you find that place. Don't take no for an answer. Find that place and stand in your power in that place. And once you do that, I challenge you to be courageous and humble enough to embrace a truth that I hold quite dear. It is quite okay to believe one thing completely and stand shoulder to shoulder with other people who believe something completely different. The world needs you to do just that. Thank you.